Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another, or next, depending on how you want to think about it, episode of the Property Investment Australia podcast. I'm Lachlan Bidler. I am one of your hosts, and I am joined, as I always am, by the Brazilian man, the mortgage broker, maestro, Will Sanchez. Will, what is going on, mate? How are you doing?
No, I'm pretty good, my friend. Very good. Thanks for the intro.
You like the intro?
Oh, very nice.
Change it up?
Yeah, I never know what to expect. Thank you.
You know what? We've got to keep it fresh every once in a while. We've got our rhythm with the intros and the outros and everything, but nothing like changing it up. Mate, what's happening? What's going on in your world?
Well, if I stop to the episode to tell you what's happening, it's going to take a bit of time. So let's keep that. It's good. It's busy. We've got some inquiries coming through. Like, it's good what's happening with the economy as well. I think in a good position to sort of start this episode in a nice
place.
Yeah,
That's good.
absolutely.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm
How
very,
about
very
you,
glad to hear
by
that.
the way?
Mate, look, honestly, not much to report. It is just business as usual. We're well and truly just in that. I feel like we're now just in that awkward part of the year where, you know, all the extra holidays are kind of behind us. We've only got a few public holidays until the end of the year.
Getting colder and colder.
Colder and cold. It's, you know what, it's just that awkward part of the year where, like, people start to get just a bit, like, it's a bit monotonous. It's a bit like that. Not in a bad way, but you're just in it. You're just in it. Run up to end of financial year. I
like the heat. Bring on the heat.
The heat. See, that's where we did. I'm a bit of a sucker for the cold.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned in the last episode that I'd just come back from LA and over the break, like over the summer break, I was in America as well, and I had winter there, so I was like, I got to break up the heat. And then now, you know, we've had those couple of warmer sort of. I feel like coming out of summer, like our autumn has been quite warm.
Yeah, it has.
And then jumping over to LA, it was a bit colder, so I don't know, mate. I don't know.
All right, you like the cold. I like the heat.
You know what? Good. It's the difference.
It's a good balance.
Yeah, they bring us together, don't they?
That's it.
Well, let's talk about what's bringing us together today, and I think we've got you know, if I can say so, I think we've got a pretty interesting episode to dive into today. You love it?
Yeah.
Love it? You love everything I do. Come on. You're my biggest fan.
But this one...
Biggest advocate.
That is true. But I like this one. Very, very, very specifically this one.
Well, I am your biggest fan too.
Oh, thank you.
So let's fan each other and have a good chat. And let's have a chat around the rise of the long-term renter, all right? And I think probably most especially how this demographic shift is definitely creating opportunity in the investment landscape for people. So for me, what I really want to talk about is the fact that we are seeing this shift, and it's happening for a lot of reasons, right? Like, you know, in the market, we're seeing the fact like vacancy rates, they're maybe not as low as they once were, but we're not far off that, right? We are still sitting around that, depending on what, you know, data provider you get it from, right? We are still sitting around 1% national vacancy rates, right? Some might even dip below 1%. So that says the rental market is tight as anything. We are seeing house price growth still happening at very rapid levels, and we can be in danger of looking at the national level, which has definitely slowed down a lot from where it was. But in a lot of markets, it is still skyrocketing. We are seeing rents also moving at very rapid rates. You know, rents are approaching or seeing just under that double-digit kind of level. Like I said, property growth.
Median prices going crazy.
Median price going crazy, and the property growth rates are definitely sitting around those double-digit figures in certain markets as well. So there is a lot happening in the property landscape. And I think for me, I know I'm talking a lot, but I think what that really brings together is the fact that, you know, affordability, especially to buy, is continuing to get worse and worse. And I hate to say it because I know it's a very emotional topic for a lot of people for good reason, right? Like, housing is a basic human right and need, and yet it is getting more and more expensive. It is not going to stop.
Yeah, that is true. But there are some positives coming our way as well. If the rates reduce, that's a bit of a...
Well, it's going to allow more people to get in for
capacity,
sure.
yeah.
But the flip side of that is going to be that more people getting in means more demand. And I hate to say it.
And what happens to the prices?
The prices go up because supply isn't keeping track, right? Like right now, depending again on where you look, right? If we're talking about affordability, Sydney, depending on the data research provider, you got a median price well over $1 million. Some are even reporting as high as like 1.5, 1.6 million for the median price in Sydney. Like, even if you're a dual income household, you can't afford that.
Yeah. 1.6.
You can't afford. You know what it's
Let
like.
alone the deposit required for that.
Like, what would you need? Just like, I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but like in terms of a household income to afford $1.6 million house, even if you put down a 20%,
I would say around the 150 each.
so you're doing $300K household income.
Yeah.
And that's
at this current level, yeah.
And that's probably what with a 20% deposit as well.
Yeah.
Like, you think about that, a $300,000 household income to get close to affording the middle house in Sydney. Like, insane, right?
Well, that's the issue. A lot of people saw when the rate, the revert rate after coming from a 2% fixed rate, going to a variable rate,
for sure,
that we've seen. Like, a lot of people couldn't afford. Like, I've got friends who went through that.
Yeah,
it's crazy because the household income required to sustain that level of repayment, was just beyond.
And I think that's a key word: sustain. You could be in a job, but as you get into higher income jobs, there aren't that many out there. So if you lose your job for whatever reason, a restructure, you need a change, whatever it is, if you're earning $300,000-$400,000, you're probably going to struggle to go and find another $300,000-$400,000 job. They don't grow on trees.
No, it's hard.
We've spoken about that before as well. Like, clients of yours that have had that situation happen.
I've got a client of mine. He's really good. I've helped him over the last 6 years, I think.
Yeah.
When he started, he was earning about 80. Then shortly after 120, then 150, then 210, and he went as high as 320. So he was sent to Brisbane to oversee a factory or something. And then he bought $1 million property over there, like 4 bedrooms. He put a pool in and blah, blah, blah. But he was made redundant not too long ago. He called me. Hey, we want to restructure it, but I'm looking at buying something soon, or I'm not too sure if I'm going to sell and sort of downgrade or something. But, well.
What, did he find another job at the same 320 mark?
He hasn't found a similar PAYG role. He's doing more consultancy for what he does, but it was like the 320. The 320 is
that's
not
what
there anymore.
It's like, you know, if you're, to me, even today, like, I know inflation has sort of hit that harder than you know, what it used to get you, but like, for you to find a role, probably I reckon above 200 these days. No, definitely tough, 250. It's very hard.
It's tough. Yeah.
Like that's a lot of money. You know, it might not go as far as it used to, but that is still contextually a lot of money to earn.
Yeah, it's usually what I see in terms of income. It's usually people in that sort of managerial role with big tech companies such as Google, Amazon, Apple, getting vested shares, which brings income up as well.
For what, a total package of like 250 kind of thing?
Thereabouts, I'd say 300.
Okay.
Package. But yeah, IT. Otherwise, it's hard. 200,000 single income. We don't see it all the time.
Yeah. And so I think, so if you're somebody out there who does have an income above, let's say 200,000, let alone 250, 300 or above, you're in a very lucky position, right? Yeah. And of course we know you work for it, so we're not putting down your hard work, but contextually, you're in a very fortunate position, and it makes it difficult, right? So, you know, for one of the reasons why the long-term renter is here to stay, it's that affordability aspect, right? You got migration, right? Like, we've had some of the biggest levels of migration. Yes, the respective political parties are saying that there's going to be different levels of migration, things like that. But, you know, even at 250, 300,000 people a year compared to, say, the peaks of like 550, 600, that's a lot of people coming in. That you got to remember, we've still got you've still got people here who move out of home. That creates another household. We're not building anywhere near enough properties. We still can't hit these magical housing accords. We aren't even getting close to hitting the numbers of new properties that we need to build, and that doesn't include the fact that that's properties that typically then get built on the outskirts or in other places. Like, if you're somebody who wants to live and work in Sydney and be in close proximity to the CBD and things like that,
no way.
You're not building properties there, right? Like, it's just not happening. So we've got migration. We've then got we've got a big culture shift as well, right? Like Gen Zs and millennials, right? So let's just say loosely, people probably under 40, let's just say very loosely, right? Yeah. People under 40, a lot of them are starting to really value lifestyle compared to, say, property ownership, right? And like this isn't meant to be a commentary on social norms or things like this, but we live in a very materialistic world where we're surrounded by TikTok and Instagram. We're surrounded by people who look like they're having instantaneous success, and we all want it now, and we all want to, do all those sorts of things. So a lot of people in that younger category, which realistically are the next generation of hypothetical home owners or renters, are prioritizing the fact that they want to spend their money on other things and they want to have a lifestyle, they want to have a certain image and things like that, to the point where now there's been surveys even done by the Australian Bureau of Statistics where nearly 1 in 3 under 35-year-olds expect to rent for life.
Yeah.
Imagine that, almost 33% of this next generation of people.
Yeah, but it's like you said, it has shifted.
Yeah.
Like we see that all the time. People just thinking about commuting. How long do we commute? Like how much time do I have with the kids when I get home?
Yeah.
What can I go to the gym? Can I eat better? Is there like good amenities around?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
So we see that all the time.
Well, you think if you want to go and live, like I said, anywhere closest, if you want to be anywhere that's like a 20 to 30-minute commute of the CBD on public transport, because we're just going to assume that they can't drive because they can't pay for the parking and things like that because it's so expensive in the city, like you like that median price.
I'm a living reality of that.
Exactly right.
Because I chose not to get a $2 million mortgage in Sydney to buy an okay home.
Yep. Exactly right.
For us, we prefer to commute. Like it's an hour drive to Sydney.
For sure.
But it's a 4-bedroom home with water views and stuff. So it's not like super fancy, but it's
there you go.
It's a good home.
But you had to sacrifice for you to do that, you would have had to be a long-term renter in Sydney.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And that's the point, right? Like we're having this
in
cultural
a migrant
shift.
on top of that.
And a migrant, which we will get to as well. But right, that's the culture shift, right? For you to be able to do that, like, I know you own a good wicket. You're a smart business owner. You do well for yourself.
Thank you, sir.
But even still, maybe you could have done it, right? But like it would have been very prohibitive, right? So we are seeing that culture shift, right? And then we also get to probably the final factor, which is that credit has tightened, right? Like, yes, we are seeing rates come down, but credit policy, maybe you can comment on this better than me, but credit policy is tougher today than it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago.
Yeah, but it doesn't negate the fact that the property price is higher, then you need a bigger deposit to get in anyway.
So it's double whammy, right? It is harder to get credit because of the way that we now, the way credit is analyzed, not even just because of rates, the way credit is analyzed, double whammied with the things, the rationale that things are more expensive. So we're now in this perfect storm of why long-term renters are here to stay. And there is a point that we're going to come to shortly around how that impacts the investor. But the long-term renter is here to stay.
Absolutely. And the funny thing is, I'm starting to see more adults moving back to the parents' property to invest in properties as well.
Yeah.
Because obviously the age of the parents come around, they want to help out, but but they don't want to pay mortgage. They want to stay with them, help out, in terms of health and all that. And it allows them to invest as well. So we're starting to see a lot of that as well.
Well, I mean, if you can move back home, and if between you and your spouse, you could save 50 grand a year because it's just head down. Your parents are helping you out. They're helping you with food, rent, board, all that sort of stuff.
Easy.
And you could try and lock away 50 grand a year. Saving 100 grand in 2 years is a massive endeavor.
Oh yeah.
And that could be a huge difference, right? Like you think, if you are trying to buy realistically any property these days, if you already had some savings, you go back home, you aggressively save another 100, like you are getting into a solid property. But even still, it's probably not the median property. It's probably not a 3-4 bedroom house nearby to the city. It's still tough.
Potts
right?
Point.
Good luck, unless you got a spare 10 mil in your back pocket. Even then, that's probably only going to get you an average apartment, right?
Absolutely.
But anyway, well, let's talk about who the long-term renters are now, because I think as investors, it's super critical that you understand your target demographic. It's your profiles. It's important to understand almost like who your customer is. And so I'm sure somebody's going to email me saying, "How dare you call people customers?" But that's what it is, right? If you're running a business, a property investment,
you care a lot about them, so
of course,
don't worry about it.
Exactly right. So let's talk about it. So firstly, we got the families, right? Like, there's a few ways to look at it. You got families who are priced out, right? They just cannot buy. And if they want to live where they want to live, they have to rent. There's no choice, right? Like if you wanted to stay where you were, reality is you would have had to probably rent,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
So, and you are a family, right? So you have to do it. You'd have to do it. So you got families. You've got migrants, and I'll let you comment on this one in a second, right? You got migrants, right? At the end of the day, when somebody comes to this country, wherever in the world it is that they're from, it does not matter. It doesn't matter whether they're from, Asia, the Americas, Europe.
The Americas, I like that.
The Americas, you got the top and the bottom,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And the middle,
Yeah.
right? Doesn't matter where anybody is from. There are rules in place that primarily prohibit people buying, right? Yes, there are things that you can do to mitigate that, but primarily you can't buy. But then I would assume, and I'd love for you to fill people in on this, right? When you move to a new country, I imagine that you want to experience life in that country first to know even if you want to stay, let alone where you want to live and how you want to live and all the rest. So you end up wanting to rent first.
Absolutely. And it's just not just experience the country. It's all about the culture. You need to learn how things work. It's just it's everything is new. Like it feels like you're like another child because you're learning everything from scratch.
Yeah.
That's essentially it. And you won't buy straight away. You don't know anything about the place.
Yeah.
So you got to get to know, got to understand the community where you're living.
Yeah.
There's lots of factors.
Yeah.
But it's as a migrant, I can speak for this one.
How long would you say on average? Like, let's assume that affordability isn't too much of a constraint. Like, it obviously is to a little bit. Let's just assume
As a family or single?
As a, let's assume you're a migrant family.
Yeah.
right?
So if you've got two incomes, I would say about
3-4 years.
4 to
to
5.
five?
It depends on the visa situation.
True.
Because
True, yep.
that's a lot of things happen in the background. Because you can get a visa, but you might not be a PR.
I was gonna say, yeah, you really
So
want a
it's-
PR, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, to make it worth.
But I guess that's for everybody listening. Like, that's something important to
But
remember.
in general, if you've got your head down,
yeah.
sleeves up, about 4 or 5 years.
So where I'm going with this is then that, like, you can have a long-term renter in your property
Mm-hmm.
for 4 to 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that is really beneficial. As somebody who has had tenants that have come and gone, had tenants that have stayed, as long as there's no issues, we all just want the status quo, right? Like, you don't want to think about it. You want to know they're going to sign on for the next 12 months. You want to know that they're not an issue. And if they meet all that criteria, you're just happy, right?
Yeah.
And if you're getting a good 4 to 5 years out of a tenant, that is exactly what we're talking about this shift to long-term
And some
renters.
tenants are really good. Like I look at us, for example. My wife, she's so organized.
Yeah.
Like all the owners would have loved us.
Yeah.
Because of her. She like
Yeah.
it's spotless clean. And when they go and do an inspection, they go, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
what have you done? It's better than when you moved in." I said, "Okay, thank you."
I was going to say, I mean,
Yeah.
I feel I'm the same, right? I've
Yeah.
moved properties in the last few weeks personally, so I know how annoying it can be to move in the whole tenancy situation. But when my property manager would come through my old property, he used to say like you are one of my low drag tenants, right? And it probably helps I'm in the industry and all the rest, and my military background, keeping things clean and tight and all the rest. But like, it meant that anytime I needed something, I'd call and I'll get given it, right? Like I broke my lease, right? I broke my lease, not by much, by a month or so, a month or two maybe. Technically, I would have been on the hook for a break lease fee.
Yeah.
But because I'd been a great tenant, they waived it for me.
Yeah.
They waived it for
How
me,
good.
right? But like, it goes to what we're saying right around in a migrant situation anyway. You can have long-term tenants in that respect, right? Then we come on to dual income professionals, right? Kind of what we're talking about around that sort of generational change as well. Like, you got a lot of professionals in their 30s and 40s that are really choosing to prioritize flexibility and lifestyle. And we're also seeing a shift where people aren't having families anymore. You're having people that are not wanting kids, either because they just don't feel like they want to be a parent, but they also feel like they maybe can't afford it and it's not a journey they want to go down. So those people, they don't need
They
to
cost money, I can tell you that.
I can bet they do, mate. I can bet they do.
Times 3, thank you.
But you know what I mean? Like they don't need to buy the big family home, right? And for them, even though renting can be a pain at times and moving can be a pain, they would much rather go live that sort of urban city lifestyle and move around and have that flexibility to go, you know what? I want to move to Brisbane, or no, I want to move across the bridge, or I want to move to the other side of the bridge, or I want to, do this type of thing. But then when they settle in a place, they like that. They might not be a long-term renter in a single property, but they're a long-term renter demographic, right? Or they then finally do settle down, but they still only want to rent because they're still prioritizing. I want to go on holidays. I want to buy a nice car. I want to, have nice designer goods, whatever it might be. So we see that. And then I think finally, and probably the really big one, and a lot of people that listen, and me personally, you have the rent vestors.
Yeah.
The people who are property owners, but they're investment property owners. And they have taken the approach that for them to live where they want to live, it is a lot more economical to be renting. And I'm living proof. I'm proof of that. I know a lot of people who are proof of that, a lot of our clients. But you think about that for a minute. It's very much, like I can be spending a third of what I would to rent where I am than if I had the same mortgage. And yet that puts me potentially in that long-term renter demographic. Like I was having a chat with my partner the other day, and I was saying to her, like, she really wants the family home, right? Like she really wants to, not necessarily family, but you know what I mean? Like she wants the place that we own, that we live in, right? And I said to her, and she now understands, right? Probably my persuasive skills.
Happy life.
Exactly.
You gotta
right.
learn this.
Oh,
my
mate,
friend.
I know. I'm still wrapping my head around that one a little bit, but no, she's come around. She understands what I'm saying behind it, because she didn't have as much experience obviously as me in this space, but was saying to her, like, honestly, I might not want to buy the family home, financial means aside, until I'm in my 40s, because I really want to spend the next 10, 15 years building out the investments, doing all that, because for me, I do prioritize that lifestyle. I do prioritize that financial, investment side of life. I have big dreams, right? And if I was to go and buy, a $2 million Sydney house or something, not that you can get much even nowadays for $2 million in Sydney, but if I was to go do that, it would put a brake on so many things that I want to do.
Yeah, yeah, it's funny because I met a guy not recently, and he was about 57, 50, I think close to 60, and he never owned a home in his entire life. He said, I've always rented. I'll never buy my dream house. I'll keep living by the beach.
Yeah,
I prefer my lifestyle. I said, no, fair enough.
That's the thing.
He's one of those pretty certain what he wants.
Yeah.
He's like, I'll never pay a single portion of principal my entire life.
I love this guy.
Yeah.
Need to have a chat with him.
Fair enough. It's good perspective, to be honest.
Well, I think it is, right? I think it is. And I mean, like, if we bring it back to what it can really mean for investors then, because it is a really great perspective that bloke has, and I'm sure he resonates with a lot of things, is that we are going to see some shifts, right? So, like, for example, with this long-term rented demographic, right, we might start to see a bit of a shift towards longer lease terms, right? And now, personally, I probably wouldn't do it because it gives you less flexibility to increase the rents. Like, you can build it into it. If the market moves faster and you're locked into a 2-year lease with your tenant.
But 12 months is fine.
12 months is fine. I mean, 12 months is standard, right? But I'm talking longer term, right? 2-3 year type stuff. I reckon we're going to start to see a bit of an increase in that type of thing. But yeah, you do put yourself at risk if you do it of, market moves faster than what than you realize, and something you're actually
from a
behind on the
landlord's
rent.
perspective.
From a landlord's perspective, right? Okay. So you need to be careful with that. But for some people, they actually want to be locked in. I mean, landlords, they want to be locked in with that certainty for the tenant, right? So they might be very much preferencing a 2 or 3 year lease, right? So you've got that. There's going to be less vacancies, right? We're already seeing it. Like I said before, like vacancy rates nationally still well and truly around that 1% range, if not less in some markets.
1%, think about that.
It's more of an anomaly, right? And considering, right, like vacancy rates usually done off what's vacant after 21 days. Think about that. After 21 days on the market, 1% of properties.
But think about that. 10 years ago, when I moved to Woolite Creek in Sydney, we went into a property and we had about 42 people visiting that same property. We got that property. 42 people lined up to see the exact same property. Like, what does it tell about? And that was 10 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you the place that I've moved into, it's a nice place, right? It's a nice place. I'm still in an apartment. I very much like it. I think it's good for the way that I set my life up at the moment. One open house, and or open apartment if you want to
Yeah,
if you want to call it that. Get it?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's a dad joke, let me tell you. You getting
Maybe
ready
I'm
for
ready.
it?
But there was because there was in excess of I think 100 people through that place. In excess of 100 people, right?
How do you pick and choose out of 100?
Well, and that's the thing, right? And like, fortunately for me,
Then you're going to be the 1%er.
well, literally, right? Literally. Fortunately for me, I knew the property manager, so it made my life a little easier. But the point being, right, like this long-term renting demographic, less vacancy, there's so much interest, and if you're being a smart investor, you're buying in markets that have that desirability, that livability factor that's going to make it a less than 1% type scenario, right? If you're buying shit and you're in the middle of nowhere, you're not going to be in this bucket, right? Because you've bought a bad investment. But good investments are going to be feeling this, right? And what that's going to lead to is, lower tenant turnover, better predictable cash flow for people as well. And also almost a level of certainty in the increasing nature of the cash flow, right? Because you're going to be very confident that, you're going to be smashing, 30, 40, 50 bucks on top of the rent each year. And it's not about taking advantage of the tenants. It's about that's the environment that we're in, right? And you've made an investment. You've added into the rental pool to help somebody out. You should be compensated for that, right? And rather than being like, oh, am I only going up $5 or $10 or am I staying flat this year? There's going to be a lot more certainty around the fact that there is going to be increases in cash flow, which is great.
Well, that's funny. I did a loan for an older bloke not long ago, and he has been paying the same amount of rent for 10 years.
Bad landlord.
Yeah, but I don't get it. No, he's a great. He must be an amazing tenant.
Yeah, but I mean,
he must be building stuff. There's a new wall. There's a new bedroom.
Literally, but you think if that's 10 years, if he had have gone up by even just $10 a year, which obviously still would have been well under, had have gone up by $10 a year, we'd now be in the boat that it would be up $100 over 10 years. Yeah, which would be $5,000 additional that landlord's getting, right? And that's at the absolute bare bones basics, right? This is the point. If you put your head in the sand, you don't get a good result. So anyway, I think the final point I want to make on that about what it really means for investors is you're then going to see it translate into capital growth as well. Because if there's this long-term renter demographic, there's massive desirability going there. People are still always going to want to buy, right? People are always going to want to buy. But it means that properties are going to be so tightly held and so desirable because everybody's living in them at the first chance they get, that when a property does come up for sale, it is going to sell, faster than anything else on the planet, right? So it's going to mean then that if you are an investor and you're owning those properties, your capital growth is going to continue to move very rapidly. That's going to help you to continue, increasing your household wealth and all the rest, helping you towards your own financial security.
The word of the century, compound interest.
Compound, yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. So for me, I think that this demographic is really, really interesting to see, right? Really, really interesting to see. And if it's capitalized on properly, it's going to set up investors for even more success than what they've had.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Right? And I think I just want to finish. I want to finish with two examples, right? Two examples of clients from mine, just because I've got them in front of mind. If you let me, right?
Yeah, go for it.
So first one is a client of ours. I'll say her name. Maybe she'll like it. Her name is Rachel, right?
It is not, but no, it's all right. We'll take it.
No, this one actually is. This one actually is. This one actually is, right? Okay. I know. On the last episode we did a sub in. But this one, she we because we send this out to all our clients. A lot of them end up saying like, they listen in and stuff. And I always like where I can, when it's not maybe too I don't know, disruptive or whatever to sort of say some details. Anyway, so we got Rachel, right? Rachel is she married? I don't know if she's actually married or not, but she has a partner. And basically they were living down in Melbourne. And although the Victorian market maybe hasn't had the performance of certain other markets, basically Rachel and her partner or husband, whatever they are, they've got remote jobs, or primarily remote jobs. So they've always lived in Melbourne, but for them it wasn't about that. It was just where they always lived. They basically cracked it because they were like, this affordability issue is just annoying us up the wall. We want to have a bit more flexibility. We want more space. We don't want to spend the money we'd have to there. So they actually moved up into regional Vic, and they went up into, I think it was Ballarat, right? And for them, they love the proximity to Melbourne, so they could still go see friends and family all the time. They were to get a much bigger house, but they're still renting. They still said, we want to rent. We don't want to be buying. We still want to be renting. They can still complete their jobs with absolute ease. And they went and they actually signed a 2-year lease. They went and signed a 2-year lease there. And they've said to us, like, they're very, very happy to be long-term renters. Like, they've got no interest in it. They love to be able to travel. They love to do all sorts of things. But they moved there because of, like I said, proximity. You know, there's big things that have been happening down in Ballarat and also other parts of regional Vic. But as flipping it to now talk about them from the investor side, they're able to lower their rent and get something bigger. They're falling into that long-term renter bucket. They're able to increase their own wealth because they can now free up their cash flow. And for the landlord that they're now living in their property for, they've got their 2-year lease that they were happy with. I thought it was a little silly from a landlord perspective, but, you know, each their own. And they've got tenants that are more than happy to be renters. You know, they're not people that have just moved to then be thinking, oh, we're going to buy our next property. So everybody's winning in this scenario. And I think it's really reflective of the long-term tenant scenario. But I've got one more. I've got one more if you'll indulge me. Yeah, one more example.
Absolutely, bring it on.
So another client of ours, I won't give the name away on this one, but we bought a property for them, and it was a 4-bedder. And funnily enough, we actually don't buy a lot of 4-bedroom houses, right? I'll tell you why. You know, 3 bedrooms is the most common property type in Australia.
Yeah.
But past that,
but I think you told me that.
I did, yeah. So it's the most common property type in Australia, but most of the 4-bedders are being built in the brand new, you know, house and land package type suburbs, right? So the 3-bedders are by far the most common type of property. So when you're buying in good established pockets, you end up buying 3 bedrooms more often than not, right? But anyway, I digress. So we end up buying a 4-bedder for this client of ours. And he actually ended up, just by chance, meeting the tenants. So I think it was, he went to go visit the property. He went through with the property manager. The tenants had said they were going to be out, but I think they ended up going a little bit later to go visit the property. So they ended up crossing over, right? They're not having a chat. And it's really interesting. So I think a lot of people don't end up ever meeting their tenants, cool. Right? And basically they were just having a chat and, you know, like, oh, you know, I hope you're enjoying the house. Let me know if there's anything I can do. You know, oh, you know, they told each other a little bit about themselves. Just real, you know, good general chats. Like, I think sometimes landlords are really like villainized, but at the end of the day, our client is just a regular bloke with a family and just happens to own the property. And it's just 2 blokes having a chat in the driveway, basically. Anyway, what our client ended up coming back and telling me was that where we bought the property, it ended up being in a good school catchment, right? So the family that moved in, they've been priced out. Like, they just can't afford to live in that suburb. Sorry, they can't afford to buy in that suburb, but they wanted to be there for their kids. So saying that, like, for them, they really like the house. They really have no intention of moving. They've really enjoyed working with the landlord so far because he's a good bloke. He's a good landlord. And there's been a few things that need to be fixed up and he just did it. No questions asked, nothing like that. But this family's basically become a forced renter, a forced long-term renter, because they just can't afford it. But they still want to live where they want to live for their kids, right? And those kids, I think it's a composite school. So I think it's the primary and the high school, either co-located or like not that far away. So they're going to be there for, you know, like the whole schooling period, 12, 13 years of schooling, more or less. Maybe a bit less now. Maybe it's like 8 or 9, but you get my point, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the point is now our client knows
it's a
long-term tenant, right? And like, obviously he has appreciated them as tenants because they've been really good. They've appreciated him as a landlord. Everybody's winning, and it's that long-term demographic in action.
Nice. Right? That is cool.
So
that's a good story. I like that.
I'm not really sure how to end the episode. I feel like, I don't know, is that maybe the best place to end the episode? I'm not sure.
It was good. I think there's lots of takeaways.
Lots of takeaways?
Yeah, lots of takeaways.
Well, I think if I was to summarize what I think the takeaways are, I think that more than anything, long-term renters or the long-term renter demographic, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be in your property, but just the fact that we are seeing those shifts, this isn't just some sort of short-term blip. This is 100% a structural trend, right? And you're going to see that, right? A lot of people, when they're looking to invest, they look at homeowner to renter type like percentages and stuff like that. We are seeing a shift in that demographic. And we're going to continue to because of affordability constraints, right? There is no two ways about it. And it's going to happen, right? And tenants, good ones, take just as good care of your property as an owner-occupier would take care of the property, right?
Absolutely.
So we are seeing a structural trend. And for investors who want to capitalize on that, there are real benefits to it going on as long as you're making smart investments, right? And I guess that's where we end it.
Yeah,
and we thank everybody for listening to us. And that's where I can segue into it, saying if you are looking for that help, on how to take advantage of these structural trends, how to make sure you are investing in the right areas, come and have a chat to myself and the team at Atlas Property Group. You can get us at atlaspropertygroup.com.au. And I'm going to throw it out there. We are actually starting our end of financial year offer as well. We're getting in a little bit early on it too. So we are offering $1,500 off our services up until the end of financial year. There are some T's and C's. I'm not going to run through them now, but just make sure you reference that end of financial year offer when you have your initial call with our team, and we'll run you through them. But we want to help you get into the market and take advantage of some of those structural trends to build your wealth. And my good friend William over here, if you do need your help on the mortgage side, or you just want to have a bit of a chat with him to understand the best finance strategy, go and hit him up. Aussie Newtown. Contact details are in the episode link. And as I always say, Platinum Broker, Platinum Store, and Platinum Bloke.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks again, guys. Drop us those 5 stars. And until we're back again, thank you for tuning in. And please share it around with all your friends. Thanks.
Thank you.
This is a Piccolo podcast production.